After spending years away, I came back and discovered my mom serving as a maid in the $1.5 million house I bought, while my brother enjoyed it like it was his. She couldn't even tell who I was. That evening, I phoned my lawyer. Justice needed to begin. Can you imagine coming home after years away, dreaming of a joyful reunion, only to find your own mother, the woman you adore, reduced to a maid in the very house you bought for her, and she doesn't even recognize you? My blood ran cold that night. In that gut-wrenching moment, I knew my life, and hers, would never be the same. What the hell happened next? 5 long, brutal years. That's how long I, Paul Rowe, spent in Japan, welding steel on noisy, freezing construction sites. I worked myself to the bone, just to get back to her, to Mom. The plane touched down in Los Angeles, and I rushed out, heart pounding like a drum, hailed a taxi, and sped towards the little house I'd bought her before I left. My mom, Matilda, is everything to me. She raised my brother, Colin, and me alone after Dad died. I still remember her, exhausted after her textile factory shift, sitting by the fireplace, telling us fairy tales to lull us to sleep. For 5 years, I sent money home every single month, video called every week. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to holding her tight again. The taxi pulled up. I paid, grabbed my suitcase, and froze. The house looked different. The old-fashioned latch lock Mom always used? Gone. Replaced by a sleek, electronic keypad, blinking with cold LED lights. Surveillance cameras, at least 4 of them, swept back and forth like watchful, unblinking eyes all around the gate. Mom, Matilda, 58 years old, gentle, and utterly clueless about technology. She was scared of the smartphone I bought her, always saying, "Son, it's too complicated." How could she have installed all this? My heart started hammering, a cold knot tightening in my stomach. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. I took a deep breath, set my suitcase aside, and pressed the doorbell. The familiar chime of my childhood rang out. I waited, smiling, picturing Mom rushing out, eyes glistening, shouting, "Paul, my boy is home." Nothing. I pressed again, longer this time. Silence. My heart raced. Maybe she was napping? Out at the market? No, I'd told her I was coming. I rang a 3rd time, then a 4th, then started shouting through the gate, "Mom, it's Paul. Your son is back." Still not a sound. The house was unnaturally quiet, like no one was there. Or worse, was she sick? That thought sent a chill down my spine. Finally, after the 5th ring, a click. The door swung open, and I stood there, stunned. It wasn't Mom. It was Colin, my 28-year-old younger brother. The Colin I remembered as an unemployed deadbeat, reckless, a drinker, a gambler. He stood there in a ratty t-shirt, hair messy, eyes slightly red like he'd just woken up. When he saw me, he flinched. Just a split second, but I caught it. Genuine shock. Then, instantly, he plastered on a huge, almost forced smile. Teeth showing, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Brother Paul. Oh my God, you're back. Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" His voice was a little too high-pitched, nothing like his usual lazy drawl. Before I could answer, he rushed forward, threw his arms around me, slapping my back hard, acting overly happy. I was taken aback. My brother had never been this affectionate. We fought all the time when we were kids because he was lazy and I did all the chores. The last time I saw him, before Japan, we argued because he borrowed money and never paid it back. This hug, it left a bad taste in my mouth. Something was off. I patted his shoulder, gently pushing him away. "Yeah, I'm back. But why are you here? Where's Mom?" Colin laughed loudly, pulling me inside. Come in. Come in. We'll talk inside. Carla, babe, Paul's home." He ushered me in like he owned the place. I stepped through the gate, dragging my suitcase, and immediately noticed the entire interior had been transformed. The familiar living room with Mom's old sofa, where she knitted, was gone. Now, sleek leather couches, a huge flat-screen TV, brand new shelves filled with trendy decorations. This wasn't Mom's cozy home anymore, it was a stranger's showroom. My frown deepened. "The house has changed a lot, huh? You did all this?" Just then, Carla, Colin's 27-year-old wife, came out of the bedroom. She wore a short dress, hair tied high, flashing a bright, but strangely artificial, smile. "Paul, hi. It's been forever. Colin talks about you all the time." Her voice was sweet, but I sensed the strain. I remembered her as demanding, constantly pushing Colin for money while she did nothing but shop. Now, watching her, holding a glass of water, eyes darting towards the kitchen, everything felt even stranger. I sat down, trying to stay calm. "Where's Mom?" "I've been calling, and she never came out." Colin sat next to me, slapping my thigh. "Oh, Mom's in the kitchen. She's doing great, don't worry." But he hesitated for a split second, his voice dropping slightly. I raised an eyebrow. "In the kitchen? We've been talking so loudly. How come she didn't hear?" "She always used to rush out right away." Colin gave an awkward laugh. She's a bit tired, doing something. I'll go call her." Before he could react further, I asked directly, my voice tightening. "Why are you and Carla living here?" "This is Mom's house. The house I bought for her. Don't you two have your own place?" Colin answered smoothly, almost too smoothly, as if he'd rehearsed it. "Well, about a year after you went abroad, Mom started getting weaker. She became forgetful, sometimes dizzy. I thought it was dangerous for her to live alone, so I suggested my wife and I move in to take care of her. Mom agreed right away. She said it's nicer to have family around, less lonely." I was surprised. Since when had Mom gotten weak? Why hadn't she mentioned any of this during our video calls? But I didn't suspect too much. Mom loved her children. It made sense she'd agree to let Colin move in for loneliness. I nodded. "Oh, I see. That's good. I'm glad you thought of Mom." But deep down, a small, cold doubt flickered. Why hadn't she ever told me? I glanced at Carla and caught her shooting a quick, unreadable look toward the kitchen, a mix of worry and caution, before she immediately smiled again, hiding whatever it was. A cold shiver ran down my spine, like an invisible hand tightening around my throat. My heart raced, cold sweat breaking out on my back. Something was seriously wrong here. The changed house, new locks, cameras everywhere. Colin and Carla living here. And Mom? Not coming out to greet her son after 5 years apart. I stood up. "Never mind. I'll go see her in the kitchen myself." Colin jumped up too. "Yeah, let me take you," he stammered. But I didn't wait. I headed straight for the kitchen. Every step felt heavy. The air in the house suddenly became oppressive, tense, like in a horror movie. I could hear the faint clinking of dishes. But why wasn't Mom calling out? The bad feeling surged, stronger and stronger. I pushed the kitchen door open hard, ready to face whatever was waiting. And then I froze on the threshold. My heart almost stopped. There, in front of me, was my mother, Matilda. But not the mother I remembered. She wore an old, crumpled maid's outfit, the faded apron she used to wear only when scrubbing the house years ago. She was bent over the kitchen sink, looking utterly exhausted, visibly gaunt and frail. Her hands trembled, as if she had no strength left. Those rough, callous fingers that had worked hard her entire life now shook violently as they clutched a sponge. Water dripped from the faucet onto the wet floor. The heavy air in the kitchen was thick with the smell of cheap detergent mixed with leftover food. But what truly paralyzed me was her. The strong woman who had single-handedly raised my brother and me, now reduced to a shadow, weak and utterly drained. Why was she doing housework in this condition? My throat tightened. Tears welled up, but I forced them back. I called out to her, my voice strangled, as if someone were choking me. "Mom?" She turned her head slowly and looked at me with dull, vacant eyes, as though struggling to recognize a distant face from a foggy memory. Her hair had turned much grayer, tangled and unkempt. Her face was so sunken, I barely recognized her. Deep wrinkles carved into her skin, cheeks hollow, eyes cloudy behind a veil of mist. She used to be radiant, always beaming when I came home. But now she looked as if she had aged 10 years in the 5 I'd been away. Pain stabbed through my chest like a sharp knife. How had Mom ended up like this? I had sent money home faithfully every month, believing she was living comfortably. Yet, the reality in front of me left me reeling. She stared at me for a long time, blinking, trying to focus. Then, a faint spark of recognition flickered in her eyes. She stammered, "Paul, my son, you're back?" Her voice trembled, breaking off between words. Her feet shuffled slightly, as if she wanted to come closer. She let the sponge fall from her hands, water dripping onto the floor. In that moment, a sliver of hope flared inside me. I wanted to rush forward and hug her. But instantly, Colin cut in from behind, his voice quick and loud. "Mom, go rest. You're not feeling well. You shouldn't be working so hard, or you'll wear yourself out." He darted into the kitchen, planting himself between me and her, one hand on her shoulder as if holding her back, his face full of forced concern. Yet, I clearly saw the strain in it. I turned to Colin, waiting for an explanation about this not feeling well business. Why hadn't anyone told me? But in that split second, I saw him flinch, his shoulders tensing before he forced himself to relax and flash an awkward smile. "Paul, Mom gets tired really easily. Let me help her." I frowned. The unease inside me grew stronger. Why was he reacting so fast? As if he'd rehearsed this exact scenario? Colin spoke hurriedly, his voice rising slightly with tension. "Lately, Mom's been really forgetful. Sometimes she remembers things, sometimes she doesn't, and she gets emotional easily. She cries when she sees people she knows. Come on, let's take her to the living room and talk there. Standing here too long will tire her out." Carla appeared in the doorway, her tone soft, but her eyes flashing with calculation. "He's right, Paul. I'll get her some water to feel better." Their reactions were too quick, too perfectly synchronized, like they had practiced this. Prepared answers for every possible question. The strange feeling inside me swelled like a balloon about to burst. What were they hiding? Why did Mom look so utterly exhausted? And why had they left her washing dishes alone? I didn't wait any longer. I stepped forward and wrapped my mother in a tight hug. She trembled in my arms, her body cold and fragile, completely unlike the warm, strong embrace I remembered. From the days she comforted me after fights with Colin or cooked dinner for us despite her own exhaustion. Now she was so thin, I could feel every bone. Her skin was ice cold, as if she hadn't been warm in a very long time. Overwhelming sorrow surged through me. I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. "Mom, I'm home. I'm so sorry I left you alone for so long." She whispered something incoherent, resting her head on my shoulder. But she didn't hug me back, as if she were afraid. I gently led her to the living room, supporting her step by careful step because she walked unsteadily, legs shaky. The moment we sat on the sofa, the first thing I asked, my voice raw, was, "Why are you letting Mom do housework in this state? She's so weak. She needs to rest." Carla jumped in quickly, her voice dripping with forced sincerity. "Oh, Paul, she insists on doing it. She says she wants to keep busy, that sitting idle makes her restless. Colin and I have tried to stop her, but she won't listen." Colin nodded vigorously. "Exactly, bro. Mom's stubborn as a mule. We tell her over and over, but she never listens." Yet, their excuses rang completely hollow. How could Mom insist on washing dishes with hands that shook like that? And why weren't they helping her? I turned to Mom, trying to speak gently. "Mom, it's Paul. Look at me clearly. Are you okay? How have you been living? If anything's wrong, tell me. Don't hide it from me." Matilda looked at me, struggling to form words. Her sentences broken and halting. "My son, I missed you, but my mind's been so confused lately." Her memory was clearly jumbled, her voice small and trembling, as though she was terrified of saying the wrong thing. Every time she hesitated or seemed about to say something, Colin or Carla immediately interrupted, answering for her, talking over her. "Mom says she's fine, just forgetful." Or, "Carla, she missed you so much, but she's tired now." Mom fell silent at once, shrinking into herself in fear, shoulders hunching, eyes dropping like a frightened bird. That was the moment everything became crystal clear. Matilda kept glancing at Colin and Carla with anxious, wary eyes. The look of someone long accustomed to being controlled and too scared to speak without permission. She huddled on the sofa, clutching the hem of her apron as if afraid of being scolded for saying the wrong thing. My heart clenched with a mixture of pain and rage. What the hell was going on here? Why was my mother terrified of her own son and daughter-in-law? I wanted to ask her directly, "Mom, tell me, what have they done to you?" But with Colin and Carla sitting right there, on either side, watching her every move, I knew she wouldn't dare tell the truth. She would stay silent or repeat whatever script they'd given her. I swallowed my words, choking on them, while my mind spun with 1,000 questions. I had planned to stay the night, cook for her, hold her while she slept like when I was little. But the tension, the way Colin kept trying to control everything, made it clear that staying now would get me nowhere. They would watch every second. I'd never get a moment alone with her. "Okay, I'll stay." "Tonight, Mom," I tried. Colin immediately cut in. "The house is cramped. Bro sleeping on the sofa wouldn't be comfortable. Just stay at a hotel and rest properly. Come back tomorrow." Carla nodded. "Yeah, she's really weak these days. Let her sleep early so she feels better." Their intention was obvious. They wanted me gone, so they could keep controlling her. In the end, I stood up, kissed Mom on the forehead, and said, "I'm going to visit some old friends for a bit. Take care of yourself, okay?" It was a lie. I needed time to think. Colin instantly asked, his voice thick with worry, "How many days will you be gone? And will you come back here afterward?" I saw right through him. He wanted me away as long as possible. So I answered vaguely, "After I see my friends, I might have to fly straight back to Japan. I only got a short leave." "Work's crazy." Colin visibly relaxed his shoulders, a genuine smile breaking across his face. "Cool. Have fun then." That unguarded reaction sent a chill through me. Why was he so relieved? As if my leaving meant they were free to do whatever they wanted. It confirmed beyond doubt that in this house, something horrific was being hidden. I stepped out of the gate, my heart heavy, as if it were dragging stones behind it. The late afternoon sunlight slanted through the trees, but it couldn't chase away the gnawing dread eating at me from the inside. Through the window, Mom watched me leave, her eyes glistening with tears. Yet she didn't dare wave, as if terrified of being punished for it. The sight stabbed my heart. Why was she so afraid? I hailed a taxi, slumped into the back seat, and told the driver in a hoarse voice, "Head straight to the outskirts, toward the airport." But halfway there, passing familiar streets lined with coffee shops and children playing, I suddenly changed my mind. "Turn around, man. Find a hotel near the old neighborhood instead." The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror and raised an eyebrow. "What's up, kid? Forget something?" I shook my head, voice low. "No, I just don't want to go far yet." Truth was, a terrible unease gnawed at me. A dark premonition whispering that if I truly left now, Mom would be in real danger. I needed to see what would happen once they thought I was gone. Once they believed I'd flown back to Japan, and they could act freely without fear of being caught. The taxi stopped in front of a small, run-down hotel, the kind of place meant for working-class guys like me. Simple rooms, hard beds, but only a few miles from Mom's house. I paid, dragged my suitcase inside, and checked into the cheapest room available. The place was dim and smelled of damp mold, but I didn't care. I collapsed onto the bed, my mind spinning. 5 years in Japan, slaving away, thinking that sending money home every month was enough to keep Mom comfortable. And now? The house filled with brand new things. Mom, skin and bones. Colin and Carla controlling her every glance. I remembered our recent video calls. She'd always cut them short, saying, "I'm fine, son." But her eyes avoided the camera, as if someone were watching her. Now everything clicked into place, forming a horrifying picture. I had to watch them. I had to find proof. But how could Colin do this? He was my little brother, blood of my blood. When we were kids, we played together. I taught him how to kick a soccer ball. Mom would smile and say, "You two love each other. Always protect one another." And now he betrayed her for money. The thought sent ice through my veins. I lay awake all night, the distant sound of traffic echoing like a warning. For the next few days, I watched from a distance, acting like an amateur detective. Early each morning, I put on an old jacket and baseball cap, stood at the street corner a safe distance away, hiding behind the trees. I saw Colin and Carla forcing Matilda to take some kind of pills every day. Each morning, they made her sit at the dining table. Carla would hold a cloudy white pill, shove it into Mom's mouth, and Mom would swallow with trembling hands, eyes downcast, never resisting. I thought they were vitamins at first. She really was weak. Maybe she needed them, so I didn't dwell on it. But why was she growing more and more dazed? I remembered how strong she used to be, walking to the market, laughing. Mom still got plenty of strength. Don't worry about me. Now she shuffled around the house like a ghost, doing chores from dawn till dusk. I watched for 3 straight days, heart pounding every time they locked the doors and the cameras swept the yard like they were keeping her prisoner. During the day, Colin would go out, supposedly job hunting. But I saw him hanging out at the nearby bar, laughing with his buddies. Carla stayed home, her face always twisted in anger, snapping and yelling at Mom for dropping a plate while washing dishes. I wanted to charge in, but I held back. I needed solid proof. Those nights in the hotel, I lay clutching my phone, scrolling through old photos of Mom. Tears streaming down my face. Why hadn't I come home sooner? Regret and dread churned inside me like a ticking bomb. Then one evening, everything shattered. It was pitch black outside, a cold drizzle falling. I stood in the shadows across the street, rain soaking my coat, but I didn't care. Through the lit kitchen window, I watched Mom frantically preparing dinner, hands shaking as she carried a tray of food, looking on the verge of collapse. She staggered, tried to steady herself, then suddenly fainted. The tray crashed to the floor with a deafening clatter that echoed through the quiet night. My heart seized as if someone were crushing it. I almost ran forward right then. But in that instant, Carla burst in like a wild animal, face crimson with rage. She screamed, "You useless old hag! You ruin everything! Look at this mess! Good for nothing!" She started kicking Mom. Hard, merciless kicks, trying to rouse her. "Get up! Stop faking it! You think passing out will make me go easy on you?" She didn't care that Mom had just collapsed. She kept kicking the frail body, unleashing all her fury. Carla hurled the cruelest insults through the open window. "Keeping you around is nothing but a waste. You can't do anything right. Why are you still alive, just leeching off us forever?" Those words cut into me like knives. I stood frozen, blood rushing to my head. All I could see was my mother, crumpled on the floor. My mother, the woman who had sacrificed everything for her children, was being treated like garbage by her own daughter-in-law. Pain and rage exploded inside me like wildfire. I couldn't hold back anymore. I charged toward the house. Heart pounding, breathless with fury, I kicked in the back door with a splintering crash and stormed into the kitchen, face burning, breathing ragged. Carla spun around, saw me, and turned deathly pale, like she'd seen a ghost. She stammered, "Pee-pee Paul. I didn't mean. Why are you here?" Her mouth couldn't form a coherent sentence. Her hands shook as she pointed at Mom on the floor. I didn't let her finish. I swung my open hand and slapped her across the face hard. The crack echoed through the kitchen. She stumbled. Nearly fell, clutching her cheek, eyes wide with shock. Blood roaring in my ears, I roared, my voice tearing through the air. "Who the hell do you think you are? That's my mother. What did she ever do to you that you dare kick her like that? She fainted and you still scream at her." The kitchen froze. Carla leaned against the wall, face ashen, lips trembling, only able to babble in terror. "First, I just got angry because she spilled." At that moment, frantic footsteps thundered in. Colin rushed out from the bedroom and stopped dead when he saw me towering in the middle of the kitchen. "Bro, Paul, why are you still here?" His voice cracked with panic. Instinctively, he jumped in front of his wife, trying to sound tough. "Calm down. Don't make a scene. The neighbors will hear." One hand reached to hold me back, but his eyes started wildly. Panic and calculation, plain to see. I pointed straight at my brother, my voice like iron. "Shut up. Why do you let Mom work in that condition? She's weak. Why don't you help her? Why do you let your wife scream at her, even knock her down? She's your mother, too." Colin desperately defended himself, voice shrill. "You've got it all wrong. Carla's been stressed from work lately. She just snapped. What just happened was an accident. Mom fell. Nobody pushed her. It's not a big deal. He forced an awkward smile and tried to put an arm around me, but I shoved him off and stared into the eyes of the little brother I once loved. My voice was deadly still. If I hadn't been here, how would I have seen this? And if I'd really left, what worse things would the two of you do to her? Did you think once I was back in Japan, you could torture her freely? Colin was speechless, mouth opening and closing with lame excuses. It's not like that. I take care of her. Meanwhile, Carla hid behind him, turning away, trying to mask her contempt, but her eyes burned with hatred toward Matilda, as if Mom were her mortal enemy. I saw their true faces clearly. Not children, but parasites. I wouldn't let Mom suffer one more second. I rushed forward, bent down, and scooped Matilda into my arms. Her body was limp, ice cold. Her breathing so faint, my heart nearly stopped. I turned to Colin, my eyes like blades. I'm taking Mom out of here right now. Colin lunged in panic to block the door. What are you doing? She needs rest. Put her down. In that instant, every ounce of restraint inside me collapsed. I kicked him hard in the chest. He flew backward, slammed into the cabinets, doubled over in pain. I clutched Mom tightly to my chest and strode out, ignoring Colin's groans of agony and Carla's look of pure terror behind me. In that moment, I understood perfectly. This was no longer just a family argument. This was the declaration of war. The beginning of the price they would pay. Carla stood there, eyes blazing with hatred, but not daring to lunge at me, only muttering under her breath. You'll regret this. I didn't look back. I stepped out into the pitch-black street, rain still falling, hailed a taxi, heart pounding like a war drum. Mom stirred in my arms, her eyes half opening, breathing shallow, but I felt her fingers weakly clutch mine, clinging to a fragile thread of hope. The taxi sped through the rainy night, streetlights flickering, casting sharp shadows over Mom's gaunt, hollow-cheeked face, her eyes still clouded with lingering fear. I held her tighter and whispered, "It's okay, Mom. I'm taking you to the hospital right now. Everything's going to be all right." She didn't answer, just gave a faint nod and rested her head on my shoulder. My heart hung suspended between terror and guilt. Terror that I might already be too late. Guilt that I had left her in that house for 5 long years. In Japan, I'd worked myself to the bone, welding steel amid smoke, dust, and deafening noise, thinking that sending money home was enough to keep her comfortable, enough to make up for my absence. And now she had been abused, poisoned, and I, her eldest son, had known nothing. Every time the image of Carla kicking her or Colin making excuses flashed through my mind, my blood boiled. I would never forgive them. But first, I had to save Mom. The taxi screeched to a halt outside the emergency entrance. Neon lights glared white against the rain. I carried her inside and shouted, "Doctor, please help my mother." She just collapsed. Nurses rushed over with a wheelchair and whisked her into the ER. One of them stopped me at the door. That night, the hospital buzzed with machines and the sharp smell of disinfectant, but I barely noticed. Doctors ran full exams, drew blood, took x-rays. I sat outside the room, burning with anxiety. Every minute felt like a century. I kept thinking of the old days. Matilda, the strong woman who had raised my brother and me alone after Dad died. She worked at the textile mill, came home exhausted, yet still cooked with a smile, and told us fairy tales. "My boys are going to make something of themselves," she used to say. Now she lay there, frail as a withered leaf, because of her youngest son and his wife. I clenched my fists, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. Why was life so cruel? Finally, the doctor emerged, face grave, holding the test results. "You're Matilda's son, correct?" I stood up, voice shaking. "Doctor, how is she? Is it serious?" He sighed heavily. "She's severely exhausted and malnourished. Her body has been pushed far beyond its limits for a long time. Weak heart, critical nutrient deficiencies, completely drained. But that's not the worst of it." My chest tightened as I waited for the rest. More alarmingly, Her blood shows high residual levels of sedatives, administered continuously over an extended period. Drugs that are not appropriate for routine elderly care. They suppress the nervous system, cause memory loss, and prolonged fatigue. I froze. Ears ringing, each word slicing through me like a blade. Sedatives? They had been forcing her to take poison to control her. The doctor continued bluntly. If this had gone on much longer, she could have suffered permanent neurological damage, even life-threatening complications, coma, multiple organ failure. You brought her in just in time. I collapsed into a chair, head spinning. I had left her in that house for 5 years, sent money, made video calls, but never came back, never checked. I was the guilty one. I had blindly trusted Colin. Regret crashed over me like a tidal wave. I buried my face in my hands and sobbed silently. It's my fault. I'm so sorry, Mom. The doctor placed a hand on my shoulder. What matters now is treatment. We'll keep her admitted for monitoring and recovery. For fluids, nutrition, and complete cessation of the sedatives. I nodded, wiping my eyes. Yes, do whatever it takes. I'll stay here and take care of her. Please talk only to me about everything. In the days that followed, Mom lay in a stark white hospital room, the steady beep of the heart monitor filling the silence. Thanks to 4 fluids, vitamins, proper nutrition, and stopping the sedatives entirely, Matilda slowly began to regain clarity. Her eyes were no longer vacant. A spark of awareness returned. She looked at me and gave a weak smile. Paul, you really came back. I took her hand, voice thick with emotion. Yes, Mom. I'm here now. Just get better, okay? She started recognizing people clearly again, speaking coherently, no longer dazed like that first day I found her. She asked about the nurses, the doctors, even reminisced. I remember the night you left for Japan. I cried all night. Every word healed something inside me, yet also reminded me of the pain she had endured. I never left her bedside. I took care of every meal, every nap, every little thing. Mornings, I washed her face and spoon-fed her nutritious porridge. Come on, Mom. It's good. Afternoons, I told her funny stories from Japan to make her laugh. Nights, I sat holding her hand while she slept, listening to her steady breathing. In the quiet hospital nights, with only rain tapping the window, I wondered what Colin and Carla were doing now. Mom grew stronger day by day. Color returned to her skin. Her hands stopped trembling. The doctor checked her and smiled. Excellent progress. No traces of the drugs left in her system. I breathed a sigh of relief, but the weight in my heart remained. Why did she have to suffer like this? One sunny afternoon, golden light streamed through the window, warming the room. I gently asked, Mom, why did you let them treat you that way? Why didn't you tell me? Matilda looked at me, eyes suddenly filling with tears, then burst into wrenching sobs, her whole body shaking as if releasing years of pent-up pain. She cried loudly, tears soaking the pillow, clutching my hand. My son, they controlled me. I was so scared. I held her, stroking her back. Tell me everything, Mom. It's okay now. When she finally calmed down, she wiped her eyes and began, voice trembling, each word cutting me to the core. She told me that sometime after I left for Japan, Colin and Carla came asking to stay, just temporarily. They were having a hard time. Because she loved her son, she happily agreed, thinking it would be nice to have family around. At first, they were attentive. Carla cooked. Colin fixed things around the house. Mom was overjoyed. I thought they had changed. But within months, their true colors emerged. They took over the house as if it were theirs, forced her to do all the chores, and monitored her every hour. They said, an old woman needs to keep busy to stay healthy. But really, they made me clean and cook from morning till night, she said, choking up. They forbade her from going out. It's dangerous, Mom. Gradually cut off contact with neighbors by installing cameras and locking the doors. Then they started giving her vitamins for the brain, to keep you sharp. She took them at first, thinking they were harmless. But soon her mind grew foggy, her body weak, her memory fragmented. She forgot names, dates, everything. When she tried to refuse the pills, they forced her and threatened, "If you don't obey, we'll put you in a nursing home, and those places are hell." Terrified and cornered, she obeyed right up until the day I returned. "It hurts so much, son. But I endured it so you could work in peace." I asked why she never called me. She shook her head. "I don't know how to use the phone properly, and Colin controlled it, took it away. If I tried to call you on my own, they'd starve me for days. Just water, no food." She recounted one time she secretly tried to call me. Carla caught her, snatched the phone, and screamed, "Do you want to starve?" They locked her in her room for 2 days until she nearly passed out from hunger. Hearing all this, I gripped her hand so hard it hurt. My chest crushed by pain, rage, and burning guilt. How dare they? Colin, my own brother, my blood, tortured our mother like this. I held her tight. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'll make this right." She stroked my hair. "All I need is you, Paul." Her story opened a black abyss. They hadn't just physically abused her. They had poisoned her mind and isolated her completely. I now understood those video calls. Her silence, her averted eyes. They had been sitting right there, watching. Fury surged through me, mixed with cold determination. What was their motive? Money? The house? I would find out. But first, Mom had to be fully strong again. In the days that followed, I lived in a state of total chaos, as if trapped inside a whirlwind with no way out. By day, I sat beside Mom's hospital bed, smiling, chatting with her, spoon-feeding her nutritious porridge, telling funny stories from Japan. Like the time I nearly fell off the scaffolding in a strong wind, or the best sushi I'd ever eaten. But inside my head, everything was a storm. I was torn between blind rage that made me want to storm back to the old house, punch Colin square in the face, and scream, "You piece of filth," and endless self-reproach. How could I have been so blindly trusting? For 5 whole years, I sent money home faithfully, $1,000 every single month, thinking that was enough to keep Mom comfortable, enough to make up for my absence. In reality, I had abandoned her, left her alone to face 2 monsters wearing the masks of son and daughter-in-law. Every night, lying on the hospital room's hard sofa, I tossed and turned, haunted by the image of Mom kicked across the kitchen floor, mixed with memories of her smiling face the day I left for Japan. "Take care of yourself, son. I'll be waiting for you." It was my fault. If I had come home sooner, if I had checked more carefully, none of this would have happened. I couldn't understand why Colin and Carla could treat our mother with such cruelty, or what their real goal was. What could they possibly want from a kind old woman? The money I sent? The little house I bought for her with my own sweat and blood? The thought sent ice through my veins, like an invisible hand squeezing my throat. The feeling that a much larger conspiracy was lurking behind everything wouldn't let me sit still. I couldn't just wait for Mom to recover and do nothing. The gnawing dread was like the ticking of a time bomb. I suddenly remembered an old high school friend who once mentioned a private investigator who could dig up any secret. The next morning, while Mom slept soundly after her 4-drip, I slipped out of the hospital and called Daniel. I asked him about a trustworthy PI. "Paul, be careful," Daniel said, his voice worried. "But I know a good one. Jack Harlan specializes in family cases and financial tracking. I'll send you his number." I called Jack immediately, my voice shaking as I gave him the short version. "My brother and his wife have been abusing my mother. I need them watched." Jack listened calmly. "I understand, Mr. Paul. I'll monitor the couple's every move. Home, work, finances. 500 a day, but I guarantee results." I agreed on the spot and wired the advance, heart pounding like I was awaiting a verdict. This was the first step. I would no longer let them walk free. Just a few days later, Jack contacted me through an encrypted call, voice low. "Paul, I have extremely serious information, enough to prove their real motive. Meet me at the coffee shop near the hospital." My heart hammered in my chest. I told Mom, "I'm just going to grab some food," then rushed out into the light drizzle that made the air feel even heavier. In the small cafe, Jack sat in a dark corner with a thick folder. He slid it across the table. I got an audio recording from their living room while Colin and Carla were talking. I placed a legal listening device through the window. "You authorized it." I put on the earphones, pressed play, and my world collapsed. Carla's shrill voice. We have to hurry and finish transferring the house title to us. Colin. Paul is back. Things could fall apart if he stays too long. Colin, anxious, I know. Tomorrow I'll contact our usual notary. That guy will rubber stamp everything. Mom's forged power of attorney is still valid. Just a few more signatures and it's done. Carla, pressing. Get it finished fast. I'm not losing this house. Paul's money transfers are almost gone. We need to sell the place for capital. The recording ended with their laughter, as if they were discussing a business deal instead of stealing their own mother's home. I sat frozen, ears ringing, hands trembling around the earphones. Transfer the house title, forged power of attorney. They were planning to seize the very house I had bought with years of blood and sweat so Mom could live out her days in peace. Jack continued gravely. That's not all. I also discovered that the savings account in Matilda's name has been systematically drained over a long period. All withdrawals made by Colin using the forged power of attorney. I accessed the bank system. Here are the statements. He pushed over pages dense with numbers. The balance was exactly the money I had wired home every month for 5 years. More than $60,000, now almost completely gone. Only a few hundred left. The statements showed the money had been spent on gambling, luxury shopping, vacations, designer clothes, paying off gambling debts at local casinos, and personal indulgence for both of them. Transactions included $5,000 to a loan shark, $2,000 for a diamond ring for Carla, even expensive concert tickets. I held the folder and went numb, tears blurring my vision. I never imagined. They weren't just stealing the money I sent. They were deliberately destroying Mom's health, drugging her into a stupor so she couldn't resist, isolating her so no one would interfere, all to seize everything. Now it all made sense. Forcing the sedatives, controlling her every move, cutting her off from the world. It wasn't random cruelty. It was a calculated plan from the start to strip her of her assets. They moved in pretending to care, gradually turned her into a slave, bled the bank account dry, and prepared to transfer the house. If I hadn't come back when I did, she would have been dumped in a nursing home, or worse, slowly killed by the drugs, and they would have walked away with everything. Pain, rage, and guilt crashed over me like a tidal wave. I sat in that cafe, gripping the folder until my knuckles went white, tears streaming down my face. How could Colin do this? My little brother, who sobbed in my arms when Dad died. Now he sold our mother for money. Amid the chaos, one thing became crystal clear. There was no turning back. If I stopped now, Mom would remain a victim forever, and people like them would keep doing it. They were destroying others. I wiped my tears and said firmly, "Thank you, Jack. I'm hiring you to expand the investigation. Dig deeper into the bank transactions, trace the forged documents and all their contacts with the notary's office." Jack nodded. Done, but be extremely careful. Cornered animals panic and lash out. I nodded in return. After that, I quietly prepared the rest myself. Called the bank to verify statements, backed up every record, photographed every piece of evidence I had, every tiny fragment saved for the coming confrontation. For the first time since returning, the pain and fury inside me were joined by something colder and unbreakable. Resolve. I would not let them get away with this. They would pay with prison. With losing everything they stole from my mother. I walked back to the hospital. Mom was sleeping peacefully under the pale yellow light. I sat beside her bed, took her thin hand in mine, and whispered, "I'll protect you. This time, no one will ever hurt you again." Outside, the night was deep and still. Inside my head, every link of a plan was quietly locking into place, silent, tense, like a massive storm gathering strength before it breaks. After gathering all the documents from the detective, I took the entire dossier to Daniel Harper, a close friend from college who was now a criminal and civil attorney. Daniel was tall, wore thick glasses, and was always as calm as a rock. But when I gave him a quick summary over the phone, his voice turned dead serious. "Paul, get to my office right now. This is no joke." His office sat in the city center, a small but tidy room lined with law books and thick with the smell of strong black coffee. I walked in, clutching the heavy folder, sweat beading on my forehead despite the cool weather. "Daniel, look at this." My own brother. "They tortured my mother for money." He sat down and started flipping through page after page. Recordings, bank statements, photos of Colin meeting the notary. His face gradually paled, brows knitting tighter and tighter. I sat across from him, heart pounding, hands clasped so hard my knuckles went white. The heavy silence stretched for nearly half an hour. Finally, he spoke, voice low. "Paul, the initial evidence you have is pretty strong. The recording clearly shows intent to seize the house. The bank statements prove illegal withdrawals. But let's be straight. It's still not enough for me to feel confident filing charges or guaranteed to win in court." He looked me dead in the eye and continued without sugarcoating. "The recording can be attacked as invasion of privacy. The bank statements need official certification from the bank to be admissible. As for the abuse and forced medication, just your mother's testimony alone isn't enough. We need independent witnesses, neighbors, doctors, or third parties who directly saw what happened." I froze, but then nodded. Daniel was right. I couldn't rush this. I had to make it airtight so they couldn't slip away. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You start gathering statements from the neighbors. I'll tell you exactly how to record them legally. At the same time, keep the PI digging into the sedatives. We have to connect all the dots to prove intent." I left his office heavy-hearted, but more determined.